We're here at the Pray Vote Stand Summit in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Marjorie Jackson. I'm here with the Washington Stand and here with our friend Ryan Bomberger of the Radiance Foundation, a life-affirming faith-based organization. Ryan, it's so good to have you here.
It's great to be here with you.
Well, I want to hear about what you just spoke about on the main stage. What did you talk about?
It was powerful. I mean, being up there with Melissa Oden and Darlene Pollock, and of course, Tony asking some very powerful questions. We talked about, post-Roe America. We talked about what our stories are and, having been conceived in rape but adopted in love. I'm literally the 1% used to justify 100% of abortions. We talked about, policy. We talked about healing and forgiveness. So there's a lot of great substance in that segment. A really great panel.
I really want to delve into one of those points specifically with you. I mean, you've talked about your personal story, how you are the 1% used to justify 99% of abortions. Talk to me about why there are no exceptions and how do we debunk those myths that are so popular in our culture?
We just have to keep in mind, as I was talking about on the panel, that abortion in America started with the exceptions. California started with the Therapeutic Abortion Act. It's amazing what we do with euphemisms, right? The Therapeutic Abortion Act. And so with that, it allowed abortion in cases of rape and incest and, of course, the life of the mother. And we have to remember, like California now, it started off just a handful of abortions and went to several thousand, and today it's over 100,000. They don't even keep track, actually, of all their abortions, but it's estimated over 100,000 abortions. And so we have to keep that in mind when we talk about people who insist on having these exceptions. But what we have to remember as pro-lifers is that no matter what pro-life bill is put out there, even it has all these standard exceptions, the pro-abortion side will rabidly protest them anyway. So we can't get suckered into this whole thing that if we just had these exceptions, it would be acceptable. No pro-life bill is ever acceptable for pro-abortion fake feminists.
So now in post-Roe America, what does it look like to continue the fight for life? I mean, the work's not done, right?
It's definitely not done. In fact, it's harder in some ways. We've seen the violence against our pregnancy centers. There are 2,700 plus pregnancy centers, and we've seen some of them firebombed, vandalized, but their work is so vital and more than ever before. In fact, they need more support, financial, they need more volunteers. The Radiance Foundation is so blessed to be able to work with a number of pregnancy care centers across the country. Our maternity homes, there are 450 maternity homes across the country. They need more support. On every level. As an adoptee and an adoptive father, we need to talk honestly about adoption, because right now it's more demonized than ever before. We're seeing article after article and news story after news story just demonizing one of the only alternatives, one of the two alternatives to the violence of abortion. And so we're going to keep on, as an organization, illuminating the beautiful possibility that happens in adoption. Like my shirt says, adoption unleashes purpose. I'm a firm believer in that. So there's a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to do what we've been doing, loving people and providing an out for what the world says is an impossible situation. But as a Christian, we don't believe that anything's impossible.
Right. Well, as Christians and as you and your wife have been very involved pro-lifers, you've been involved in a lot of pro-life causes through your organization. You've worked with pregnancy resource centers. You also know that those things have been demonized, right? Like people say about the pro-life movement that it's so anti-women and they're not really supporting or helping women. Debunk that for me. I mean, you and I know that's not true. What is the hope that we actually see in that movement and the joy?
I can't imagine there being a pro-life movement without our pregnancy centers. I mean, they're at the front lines. That's why when you have people like Senator Elizabeth Warren talking about how, they intend to harm people and that people get tortured at the center. First of all, has she ever been inside a single pro-life pregnancy center? I mean, I know that a baby in a mama boutique that gives out thousands of free items at a pregnancy center is a scary thing, I guess, for a pro-abortion Democrat, because they don't believe in actually supporting women who reject abortion. And so I'm so thankful for these pregnancy centers. We need to do more to stand with them, but we also need to make sure that we're not allowing this kind of dangerous rhetoric from the far left to allow the public to be swindled. That these centers are there for mothers, not just until they give birth, but for usually 2 years after they've given birth. There are so many resources, and they're all free. Unlike Planned Parenthood that charges for every service, every service at pregnancy centers are free. And so we need to stand with our pregnancy centers.
We'll have one more question for you. Kind of in this culture where it can be really difficult to stand for life. Maybe someone who is a pro-life activist or wants to be a pro-life activist, but they're scared of the backlash of, it's not a popular topic to speak out on in our culture. Where can they draw courage from? How would you encourage someone?
Slavery abolitionists weren't the most popular people. And I thank God that they were courageous. I thank God they didn't take polls. They didn't try to figure out which way the wind is blowing, that they were courageous enough to say, this is inhumanity. This is unjust. And even if they were the only ones in their area, they still fought for it. And that's the same way here. You may be the only pro-lifer at school. You may be the only pro-lifer at the workplace. Maybe the only one in your family. But courage doesn't need a crowd. It just needs a conscience. It just needs conviction. So that's what I want to encourage people, because when you hold on and you're courageous enough, it will actually bring freedom and bring the kind of liberation that we're fighting for, so that every human life gets the dignity and the protection that they deserve.
That was a word. Thank you so much, Ryan. Appreciate your time. It's always an inspiration to hear your story and what you have to say. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much.